Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Wednesday. Special bonus episode. Anthony Davis going to be out at least a week. Hopefully not more. We'll talk about it next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. Always free, never behind paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where over 27,000 subscribers. Andy, are all a little concerned now that the news has officially come out. The Lakers announcing that Anthony Davis will be sent back to Los Angeles after suffering an abdominal injury in Philadelphia on Tuesday. He will be evaluated in about a week. So no indication yet on the severity of it. They didn't say like grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. What we know is Anthony Davis will not play for a week and now enters the Twilight zone of Lakers injuries, which is sort of the reevaluation space. We never seem to know how long that's going to take.
That they're reevaluating him in a week struck me as cautiously optimistic, because the longer you go without a reevaluation period, at least in theory, the more severe it is, because the only reason you bother with a public reevaluation is because you are reasonably confident somebody could be close to getting back on the floor. Like, there's no reason, if you think something is going to take 6 weeks, there's no reason for a public reevaluation in 2 weeks, because all you're going to be telling your fans is dude's not ready to return. And you're just going to piss everyone off. So that struck me as something to hang a little bit of cautious positivity towards.
In the sense, like it could be worse. It's obviously not the worst outcome
that they are willing to that they are willing to publicly circle back to the table within a week is, all things being equal, I think, relatively positive news, based on how this organization handles the public messaging of anything with injuries. That struck me as something to feel, again, all things being equal, fairly good about.
It's certainly, I think it's certainly fair to say that it indicates that they're thinking it's a 1 to 3 week injury as opposed to 6 to 10 week injury.
Right, exactly, because otherwise you don't bother doing that. And the non-specificity is worrisome, not in a way that I'm being critical of the Lakers, but just knowing that ab issues, ab strains, that is a very tricky area to get injured. It is very easy to aggravate. It's an area of your body that you use for everything. So the Lakers are going to have to be really methodical about this, really patient about this. And in the meantime, everybody's just going to have to try to ride out a storm that is hopefully no longer than 1 to 2 weeks.
If over the course of the next week, the Lakers play tomorrow, Thursday in Washington. They are in New York on Saturday. Tuesday, the 4th of February, they play the Clippers again at Intuit Dome, and then return home on February 6th. So a week and a day, basically, is would be a week from tomorrow, the game against Golden State. I think it's probably reasonable to think he will miss. I think at the very least, expectations wise, you would put it in your head like, okay, Anthony Davis is going to be out at least through that game on the 6th against Golden State. Maybe he comes back earlier. Great. But then, we'll see what the Lakers say. But I wouldn't count on Anthony Davis being back before February 8th against the Pacers, which, of course, is being set up for the Miles Turner revenge game after the Lakers acquire him at the deadline.
I was going to say.
I mean, the softening of the blow of Anthony Davis being gone will be brought back by Miles Turner being a Laker.
Well, really what you need to be doing if you're a Laker fan is just watching the standings right now. Unfortunately, the Pacers are 8-2 over the last 10. Unless they truly just do not want to stay in the Miles Turner business, they have absolutely zero reason to move him. Or I guess if
it's
Miles
right
Turner,
up there with the Walker Kessler talk of things.
Well, no, I mean, Miles Turner.
Let me finish. Like, I obviously there are more reasons to trade Turner. He's older. He's near the end of a contract, and all these other things. But until it becomes more clear from Indiana's perspective and stuff like that, that they really are looking to move him, the circumstances on the ground, like you say, soft Western Conference team finally starting to play like
soft Eastern Conference.
Soft Eastern Conference. The team is starting to play kind of like they hoped they would at the beginning of the year. The Pacers got off to a very mid start and were one of the more kind of quietly disappointing teams around the NBA. They are starting to play significantly better. That part of it makes it unlikely to me that they will trade him, but we'll see. Either way, like, the chances of the Lakers trading for a guy who can sort of solve the problem is non-existent, because you can't trade for an Anthony Davis replacement. But we did talk about this for today's show, the big show, the idea of how a Davis injury potentially changes Rob Pelinka's approach to the deadline, which is coming up in like a week, basically. Mm-hmm. If the answer seems to be 1 to 3 weeks, we'll just kind of work with that for now. That's a very different scenario for Rob Pelinka in terms of looking at the deadline and where the Lakers could be after a certain stretch of time than it would be if you knew AD was going to be gone he was going to be gone for 6 weeks, or Jalen Johnson out for the season with Atlanta, with a labrum tear, like that. That's definitive. That as a GM in Atlanta. So if it is that short time frame, like we talked about for today's show, that probably shouldn't change your approach if you're the Lakers, and in terms of how you think of the deadline. I wouldn't think.
No, I mean, if internally, like, what they message externally is however they choose to handle this publicly, but internally they need to get together and be like, no, seriously, no BS. Like, how long do you really think he's going to be out? Like, we need to know. We're not holding your feet to the fire, but we need you to give us what you think is the most realistic estimate possible, even acknowledging all the uncontrollable variables. What do you think? And if it is something like, we're pretty confident 1 to 3 weeks, then I agree. You treat this like you would AD being here, because that means he's going to be available for at least half of February, all of March, all of April, and all of the playoffs. So you would handle this any way you want to. And as you mentioned, unless you're trading for like a really upper end center in the league, if, say, you decided, I wouldn't do this, but let's say you just decided that you wanted Jonas Valanciunas. Valanciunas is as decent an option to be not as good as Anthony Davis as anybody else for like a couple weeks. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the move you would make anyway. If you wanted to bring in Robert Williams III, who again is not going to be as good as Anthony Davis, but he's a better option to be not as good as Anthony Davis than Jackson Hayes. And you bring him in and he eventually goes back to being Anthony Davis's backup. And that's why you traded for him in the first place. Like, I would treat this like AD is going to be available if you really feel confident internally that it's 1 to 3 weeks. If you're not, I will say this though, if you're not confident and you're thinking it could be longer, then I don't know what you people were thinking with a 1 week reevaluation period.
Well, yeah, right. That's a whole other issue.
Sure.
But I would say this too. The loss of Davis for, we'll say 10 days, just putting out numbers, trying to be both conservative and read the tea leaves of what the information that we're given to this point might say. It also doesn't change to me. Like, the Lakers need to make the best deal to get the best talent that they can. I don't think while the center position gets the most attention, I don't necessarily think it is automatically their biggest need or the one where
I don't think it is their biggest need.
And so, we discussed this Wednesday, today's show, we've discussed this a bunch. Like they have other needs. And to me, it makes very little sense to acquire a lesser big than you might be able to get a better wing or a better guard or whatever it might be. And again, I don't think this should change that either. The Lakers are going to be likely forced to play a few games at least with a really bad center rotation. It's just how it's going to be. And they're going to have to go small and they're going to have to rely on other things. And, is that going to be a problem tomorrow in Washington? It shouldn't be a huge problem. Anthony Davis has torched the Wizards in part because they do not have any size or defense, interior defense of note. Sarr isn't that guy yet. Really,
for what it's worth, he's currently dealing with an ankle sprain right now. He's day to day for tonight's game against the Raptors, and Malcolm Brogdon is out altogether.
Yeah.
So,
but Valanciunas is a terrible defender. Like there are. Is it going to be a problem Saturday in New York? Yep. Is it going to be a problem against the Clippers? It sure is. Zubats is a tough cover for anybody right now, and the physicality was hard on AD when that's going to be a problem. Like it, but you can't make transactions based on the 3 or 4 games,
right.
5 games you've got coming up without him. You have to think of the larger picture,
especially when you're a team that is not steeped in spare assets. Like if you were the Thunder, with like 5 billion picks laying around, and you said, know what,
use one.
We will burn a couple of them in a frivolous way just to get through the next couple weeks. Sure, the Lakers aren't that team,
right? So
they have to address their most pressing needs that they would if AD was available. So,
right. And they're going to play small. It'll be helpful, that Jared Vanderbilt, who missed Tuesday's game, sort of injury maintenance kind of thing, presumably back on the floor Thursday, and then within every other day cadence is able to play. Rui is back. They need to get Gabe Vincent back on the floor. Like they can get through this stretch, hopefully playing 500 ball or something like that. But it is going to be a major, major test. So we'll see. Any other information that is surfaced over regarding AD, we will certainly bring that to you. We'll have a regular show for Thursday ahead of Thursday night's game. So plenty of opportunities to stay updated on what's going on as more information comes out. But again, Anthony Davis out for at least a week, will be reevaluated next week in Los Angeles. We will be back for the bigger show, but Andy, but first.
Locked on Lakers brought to you by Game Time. I love Game Time, and I love it in part because I love going to live events, whether you're talking about sports or music or theater or comedy. Went to Hamilton on Broadway last spring with my family. It was an awesome show. My daughter met the whole cast, took selfies with them. It was really fun. And Game Time makes it easier to get tickets for things like Hamilton with the feature Game Time Picks. It filters out all of the fluff and just shows you incredible deals on great seats so you don't waste time sifting through thousands of tickets or confusing verbiage that you don't want. You just want to find your seats. You want to know what it's going to look like when you're there. And that's why panoramic seat views, which is offered by Game Time, is a really great feature. The app's all-in pricing shows the total cost up front, so there's no surprise fees at the checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time.
All right, we'll see everybody tomorrow.